Hi BookTube, I ought to do a reading update because it's been ages again. I've got a few things to talk about. The first couple I don't have hard copies of. One because I read it on my Kindle, and the other because I happened to give it back to my friend yesterday who lent it to me. Excuse me, I just drank some water, it went down the wrong way. So the first being Oh William by Elizabeth Strout. Which I loved. I started that. I started reading that on my last video and finished it shortly afterwards. Certainly a slight thing. And Lucy Barton novel. I guess the third one. She's got another one coming out. I was mistaken. I thought it was an Olive Kitteridge novel coming out. I was misled. And I've since found out there's another Lucy Barton novel, which I can't wait to get my hands on and read straight away, because I just love the voice. I love the narrative voice. Elizabeth Strout is a veteran writer, and you know, she breaks all the rules, and she does it so well. I'm not sure I've ever really seen a narrative voice like it. It's very conversational. She interrupts herself all the time and jumps around, but it's so well done. And she exclaims, "Oh William," every so often. And just the first time it happened, I was shocked. I was like, I thought, oh, well, that's the title of the novel. That's why. And every time after that, it made me laugh. It's just because it is so much. It is her character. She's slightly naive, but it's just the way she is. A very endearing character. I think the novel's actually now shortlisted for the Booker Prize, so I'd be quite happy for it to win. I haven't read any of the other books on the list, but I mean, it's not the most sensational novel I've ever read, and it's not, a groundbreaking novel probably, but it's a really good one, and explores themes of time and death. So fits right into the Booker criteria, I suppose. I feel it might be a little bit too slight to win. William is. I have to go back and read the other Lucy Barton novels, because I can't really remember if William is a character in those novels or if he is meant. I assume he's mentioned, but there are things that she alludes to in this novel which I remember from the other Lucy Barton novels. The fact that she grew up spent the first 10 years of her life in a garage, living in a garage, because her family are very poor. And when she talks about her siblings, things sort of start to ring a bell. And but I don't remember William. I don't know. But anyway, he's her first husband, and they have children together who are now adult children, and they're sort of reconnecting and meeting up and talking through their issues, or talking through his issues anyway. He's had many affairs, and gone through divorce and all this, and he's retiring or starting to retire, and it's just delightful. I mean, the characters are so brilliant, and yeah, a brilliant book. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. And after that, I did start reading After Midnight by Irmgard, Keun, translated by Anthea, which is a name I think has appeared on this channel recently. Anthea, translator of Stefan Zweig, I think, and others. So pretty cool. I didn't realise that actually until now. And I started reading this. And this part of my Women Translation Month TBR, and to be honest, my heart wasn't really in it. I was actually looking after my parents' dog the week I started this, and I was staying at my parents' house and working from home from there, and looking after the dog and walking up to 3 hours a day and looking after the dog. And so I was just knackered, to be honest. So instead of reading, I was sort of sitting down watching. When like the day was finally over, I'd sit down and just watch golf for a couple of hours and then go to sleep. And occasionally I'd pick this up and read a couple of pages, but I just couldn't get into it. It's not that I don't like it; it's just that I think I need to just pick it up at another time. But so I've got the bookmark in. I'm about a third of the way through. It's a tiny novel, and so I certainly haven't DNF'd it because I'm really liking it. I just have to I'm gonna come back to it another time. But anyway, in short, it was written during the Third Reich, just before World War II, set in Frankfurt, and in a sort of Jewish society, and these characters are starting to become more and more ostracized by Nazi officers, and yeah, it's it's very interesting, very important. The writing didn't entirely grab me. It's not, but it's certainly not badly written or anything like that. It's just that it's not a novel. The writing hasn't well, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's just, yeah, I'm gonna have to come back to it and finish it. There's no excuse for not finishing this because it's so short, and I'm quite liking it. It's just yeah. But then so I decided to pick something to read something much lighter. So on my Kindle, I actually read a sample of, I don't really know how to introduce this without just make sure you're sitting down, I guess. I started reading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire at the sample, and then I bought the ebook for, I think, a fiver. And it's a bit of an in-joke, I suppose, that I started reading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire because growing up, I'd never read the Harry Potter books growing up. Actually, I distinctly remember the Order of the Phoenix coming out, and for some reason I got my mum to get me a copy, and they were literally stacked high in at the front of Tesco's supermarket, and a mountain of copies. And so we got her first edition hardback. And I remember sort of reading the first few pages and just getting bored, and because I was just would have rather been playing video games, I suppose, and so I didn't even read it. And then when I was a bit older, I read the first book, and then started reading The Chamber of Secrets, the second one, and got bored, and that was it. But anyway, I'd always liked the films growing up. I was a big fan of the films, and I saw them all at the cinema. Even the first one, I can remember seeing it. I was probably 4 or 5 years old when it came out, but I still remember seeing it. And the Goblet of Fire, especially, I especially loved. And I remember when the DVD came out, and it was a Wednesday, and had ordered it, or Mum had ordered it for me on Amazon. It was supposed to come on the Wednesday. I was sitting at school, just waiting for school to be over, so I'd go home and open the package. And I remember the last lesson of the day was science. I was just sitting there thinking, watching the clock, waiting for it to strike 3. And got home, the package was there, I opened it, and I watched it. I drew the curtains shut, so shut out the sunlight, and watched it in my little box room. And then probably went and had dinner, and then I came back upstairs and watched it again. And then God knows how many times I watched it, I don't know. But I'd never read it, and my friend who has been reading the novels, I guess rereading the novels, said I should probably read it because there are things in the book which don't happen in the film, or cut from the film. And so yeah, I actually really enjoyed it. I'm not ashamed to say. I thought it was. I mean, J.K. Rowling, she's not a terrible writer. It's not as bad. I mean, she's got a case of the adverbs, but other than that, it's not too bad. And the first few chapters especially are really good because it's the Quidditch. Well, I'm going to talk about this. Haters going to hate. Okay, I'm not going to talk about go on too long about Harry Potter because I'm pretty sure many of you do not care. But the first few chapters about the Quidditch World Cup, and a lot of that is cut from the film, probably for I don't know, budgetary reasons or because it would have been too long. So they were really good to read, but then once it gets into sort of the Triwizard Tournament, much of that is identical in the book, in the film, with a few changes, and there's a couple of characters which are cut completely. There's a character called Ludo Bagman, who is cut completely. Never heard of him before in my life until I read this, and another house elf called Winky, who's cut. There's Hermione's sort of on a crusade in this novel about trying to abolish house elf slavery. I guess that was cut completely from the film because it's, you know, I don't know what message J.K. Rowling is trying to send there. I mean, she's about 100 years too late. It's kind of weird, but anyway. So the and what the film does, I think, I mean, some of you may disagree with me. I know my friend definitely disagrees with me. I think this film generally improves on the book. It streamlines the plot, covers a couple of plot holes, and I say cuts a couple of characters, and it does lift some of the dialogue verbatim, but actually improves on that dialogue as well. It's generally it's better, but I really enjoyed the book, and I mean, I'm so familiar with the film that it wasn't really a fair reading experience because I knew what was I knew what was going to happen at every turn. So, Sirius Black has a much more prominent role in the book than he does in the film. I think in the film he only appears in the fireplace, so that's it. But he's much more present in this novel, in the book, and a few nice little details which are missing, like from the film, like in the first task when he's got to take on the dragon. You do get a little bit of information of how the other contestants beat their dragons, which you don't see any of in the film. The second task is largely identical. The third task again is the labyrinth, and I thought, you know, in the film did such a good job of making it, you know, really dark and eerie and just, you know, something unnerving about it, and that's largely the same in the book. It's described as when he walks into the labyrinth, all the crowds cheering suddenly goes silent, or like he can't hear them anymore, and that's what happens in the film. But in the labyrinth in the book, they do actually encounter enemies or obstacles like giant spiders and boggarts and whatnot, which is all cut from the film. I'm not entirely sure why. Just maybe an artistic choice, or because it might have been difficult to execute on film. I don't think it would have been too difficult, but I don't think they did a good enough job in the film. So yeah, I mean, I will eventually read the next book, and I'm not going to go back and read the first one, or probably not the second one, but I might read Prison of Azkaban, but we'll just move straight on to Order of the Phoenix, and I might read that with my friend when he reads that as well. A film I'm much less familiar with. I've probably seen it a couple of times, but I think that's the longest book in the series as well, so going to be a lot of detail. But I won't drone on about Harry Potter anymore. But then just last night, just because, well, the reason is actually I didn't know that Conrad at 7 Days at Sea had come back to BookTube. I often search his name, 7 Days at Sea, just to check, because I know he disappears and reappears, you know, every couple of years or so, and I hadn't seen him, and then he commented on one of my videos, and I clicked on his channel and said, oh, he's been back for about 3 months, about the same as me actually. So I've been back and watched his videos, and one video, which I suppose I'll link down below, is just him talking about his all-time favourite authors, and at one point he does talk about Joyce Carol Oates, if I'm not mistaken, and it just it inspired me really, because Joyce Carol Oates is still an author I've not really read, apart from maybe a couple of stories, and I had this book on my shelf which I bought but not that long ago, and I'm just looking at it and I think I just really want to read it. I don't know anything about it. It doesn't even have a blurb on it. There's no information about it, so I'm going completely blind really. It's called Middle Age, a Romance. I literally just started this last night, so not far into it at all, and so far, yeah, it's wonderful. I really like it. It's quite odd going in, a little bit strange the way the story is set up, and it's not clear. There's something strange about it. I can't put my finger on it, but basically, it's starts with a character called Adam. I'm completely blanking on his name now. It's terrible, really. Terrible. Adam Berent. And he's sort of in his 50s. It's not clear exactly how old he is. So at one point, someone asked him how old he, or she says, "Oh, you must be 50 or 52." He says, "Oh, to be honest, I've lost count." So it's unclear. He doesn't really care how old he is. He lives on his own. He's a sort of artist. Lives in a house by the river, and bit of a mysterious figure. He goes to a 4th of July cookout, sort of a fundraiser, and with some rich friends. Well, not really friends, but I don't know, acquaintances, and they go sailing, and they see a small boat captained by a bunch of preteens and children, and a couple of those children fall overboard. This all happens in the opening pages, so it's not spoilers or anything. And he decides, Adam decides, even though he sort of forgets that he's getting on in age and he's put on weight and he's not as fit as he used to be, he's got his life jacket on, but he decides to go in, just immediately jumps into the river, and or there's sea, that must be the river they're on, I don't know, and to save one of the children as a young girl. And he's struggling with the clothes he's wearing in the life jacket, and he can't really swim against the current, but he somehow manages to get there and save the child. But in the process, he actually has a heart attack, and eventually he actually dies on the way to the hospital. So the main character was what I would have, what I thought was the main character has died. I don't know if that's going to be the last we see of him. It might be a novel or in flashbacks. I'm not sure. As I say, it's very odd, coming at the story from a very odd angle and a strange angle, and I can't really pin it down yet. And I'm not very far into it, so I have to wait and see. And yeah, so he dies, and now we're left with, it's moved on to this woman whose name I'm also forgetting. She's a proprietress or owner of a local bookshop, and she seems to be, people weren't really sure whether she's in a romantic relationship with Adam. And it turns out, well, I don't think she wasn't, but she certainly has had feelings for him, and was devastated to learn of the death. So, and that's it. That's where I am. That's the point where I'm at. So I have no idea where this novel is going, but I just absolutely love it. And it's the atmosphere of it. It's called Middle Age. It could have easily been called Middle Class. So it's set, a bunch of middle class characters set East Coast, America, a romance. Like I suppose it's an ironic title. I don't know. It's a broad title. An all-encompassing title, but I'm so intrigued, and yeah, it's a bit of a chunker, so it's 450 pages, so And yeah, I can't wait to read the rest. I honestly can't wait. So, and that's it. That's what I've been reading. So as always, just please let me know if you've read any of these books, if you wanted to read any of these books, and we'll have a conversation down below. Thanks for watching.